Well, basically last year, I was going to answer a lot of these questions at once, but the bottom line is we have a full-time employee who spent half his time at Rydtown Park in the wintertime. So basically half of his time was dedicated to the walkthrough. He was the principal person responsible for the walkthrough.
And that was a daily part of his job?
It was half of his time.
And was that pretty much half his time every day? I mean, was he at Rydtown Park?
He'd look at the needs, he'd go down there. I mean, he'd look at the needs, go down there when was necessary.
Okay. And so I'm assuming, Bishop, that you're doing a daily walkthrough now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, that's great. And what is the protocol for changing a light bulb?
The protocol for change?
Yes, if you see a light out, what happens?
Depends on whether we're in season or out of season.
But I think don't we have a pre-agreed contract?
Yes, we have an outside contractor right now.
Who's already pre-agreed a price, and so anytime we need to bring in, if Frank DeLeo were there, the previous employee, he would call in the outside contractor the same way we would. He wouldn't change it himself.
Right, I figured
so basically
as much.
we have a contract, a pre-agreed contract with pre-agreed pricing for an outside vendor to come in and fix the lights.
And does that happen every time there's a light bulb out?
No.
Not every time, no.
So what's the threshold?
Normally we would try to gang these types of things up. A single light being out is something that certainly we can cope with. Depends on where it is. In this particular case, I think Ms. Curran brought up an interesting point, and that was that some of these lights have been out since, perhaps August, September. Soon as we found out, we mobilized our electrician, got him in there. They spent the better part of a week trying to get all of these lights up and running, and they did.
Which is great. I think that's wonderful. My hope is that the protocol's been changed so that we're not going to have to wait 6 months for certain light bulbs.
Sorry. There's no protocol that says wait 6 months. The people that were let go screwed up. Let's be honest. The people that were let go, I mean, what I have to say, all I heard from 90% of the people was criticism of the town park staff. 90% of the comments we got were negative, that they weren't doing their job. Ms. Curran is very clear that the problem she talked about date for months. So I still can't imagine how Fred missed it in the summertime, but I guess there's a problem with the lights in terms of the timing. That's the first point. Second point, though, was the staff was down there till early December. So they obviously missed all of this in October, all of it in November, all of it in December. And nothing was done. So there was no protocol for a bad job. If you miss it, we missed it. I told you, it's deeply embarrassing. Now, as soon as we found out the lights were out, we remedied the situation. And obviously, Mr. Nowotnik is down there full-time, 5 times a week. We've asked Mr. Lura to go as a favor to us, who's a summer employee, to go on to keep an eye on the park. Mr. Jaffrey. So the park is actually, quite frankly, being better covered today than it was when we had the full-time staff.
So going forward, clearly, you think it was just a dereliction of duty from the employees that were there in the park?
I think it's, if you want to call it dereliction of duty, I would say certainly they missed it. That's the first thing. Is it deeply embarrassing? Absolutely. Secondly, I think you have a series of circumstances here. I think was there a hurricane? Was there a superstorm? That 1 in 300 year superstorm that occurred? I think there was, wasn't it? Did I miss that, or was
for one day? But we were without power for 2 weeks.
So I think there may be some extenuating circumstances here, and so now I'm going to finish. There's some extenuating circumstances here. So yes, were the lights out for too long? And then yes, we transitioned. And I'll explain exactly why we transitioned. Exactly why we transitioned, and exactly why we made the decisions. But quite frankly, part of the decision we made was because the park staff wasn't doing a job that anybody felt was up to snuff. That wasn't the reason for it. It wasn't the rationale. But all I'm saying is the park staff's been out for 3 or 4 weeks. Come on, these guys have worked too hard. These people worked too hard to be disparaged in the way they've been disparaged. I'm sorry. Too hard. We worked too hard with the Friends of Rydtown Park. Too hard with the Traffic Commission. I'm sorry. We spent far too much time working, slaving, to accommodate a whole host of interests. Community meeting after community. I want to go back to the videotape. The press is here. Go back to the videotape when you sat there and sang our praises, and the whole community did. So I'm sorry, I worked far too hard to be disparaged in this way. Not you, but to be called a liar. To be called a liar. I'm sorry. You can disagree with my policy. You can disagree with the strategy. To be called a liar, to insinuate that we didn't have the December meeting so we wouldn't have to incur the wrath of Rice City. So at the end of the day, there's no protocol to miss it. No. The protocol is to be responsive to the public. And as soon as we got Ms. Curran's video, it was resolved in a week. So there's no protocol to screw up. The protocol is to try and make the park better every year. And we have a fiduciary responsibility. You may have seen the Journal News on Sunday. Journal News said people's taxes went from $3,000 to $20,000. $3,000 to $20,000. No one can afford to live here. And I'll explain to you why, when we get to it, we have an opportunity, why we let the staff go. And what the financial pressures are in the town of Rye. But I'm not going to sit here and have anybody intimate that we're not responsive. I'm not going to sit here and have anybody intimate that our park staff hasn't done triple backflips. These gentlemen right there and Terry, they probably put in twice as many hours as they get paid for. And so if somebody wants to stay working on a crap job, let them say it all they want. If there's a problem, we'll fix it. If people want to work with us in constructive fashion, we'll do it, just as we've demonstrated time and time and time and time and time again.
I knew I should have brought a cake with me tonight. I felt like I needed to bring a peace offering. I'm actually up here really, and let me back up a little bit. I'm not making any disparaging remarks, and I do want to look forward to just things operating better, and I thank you very much for making the changes to the park that needed to be made. And I'm glad that it seems like there's maybe a better system that's going to be in place going forward. So let's take it back a step. I'm here tonight because I felt like, given your email to me, that maybe there was some miscommunication. Sometimes when you get an email, you hear a tone that you don't like and you feel that it's political. I'm not here because of politics. I'm here because of passion. I love that park. It's in my neighborhood, and it's in my community, and a lot of people in Rye do use that park, but we use it all year round. And so if you're just looking at it in terms of the summer, which is high season, well, okay, maybe we're not there every day. But if you look at it as a 365-day-a-year operation, we're there. We really are. So I felt badly because I thought, actually, Supervisor Carvin, I have felt that in the last year and a half or more, we've actually had a pretty good working relationship. I mean, the meeting that I got to sit in on as part of the commission, I really felt was a really productive meeting. We had a meeting with some user groups that went very well, and I really have felt that things are going in the right direction. I think that you have heard people and you've responded. So by all means, I really, let's see this as just a way that we can go forward and maybe make some more changes in the right direction.
Well, I can't thank you enough for those comments, Ms. Parker, and I didn't want you to suggest that you were making disparaging comments. I do think we all have the best in mind for the park. And I remember going in front of the Rye City Council, and you said, we risk becoming the least fun park in the United States because, we don't allow ball playing. And I think that was actually, quite frankly, an insightful comment, and one and so I do appreciate the good working relationship we've had. Now, the only thing I like to say is that I'd like people to give us a little bit of time to solve the problem. I think that we've earned that. What I'm saying is, if people could give us the benefit of the doubt, what I said to the press when they called is, let's look at this in 2 months' time. And in 2 months' time, if there's horrific problems and horrific concerns, then fine. I think that ultimately, we fully appreciate we're under intense scrutiny right now. We fully appreciate that we've proposed something doing different, innovative. Now, I'll get to the other comments from the board members in a second and talk about what the board can and can't do. But ultimately, I do appreciate your goodwill towards the park, and I know it was in the best, in that goodwill that you brought that to our attention, so I don't want to...
It's January. It's really like way too early for anything else. It's just January, and
Right.
and the issue was brought actually to our city council meeting December 19th. I actually watched the tape back today, and Ms. Curran came to that meeting, and I think she mentioned the issues that she then went and did the tape. And in fact, she mentioned lights out 3 separate times during the course of that meeting. And my feeling is part of what needs to be fixed is always, as levels of government, communication is really paramount. And we've done a great job, you've done a great job as far as, again, communicating with, the Rydetown Park Advisory Group and the Friends of Rydetown Park, and I think that's all been really positive. And maybe as elected officials, there hasn't been as much communication as there should be. It sounds to me like just, hearing Mayor Feinstein and Mayor Pilla talk about the budget and decisions there, maybe a little more communication in that regard. Communication from our commissioners back to you would be helpful. And so I see that as something that going forward, if we all have it in our mindset, okay, how do we avoid these kind of situations? It's communication, communication, communication. I know that's sort of my mantra this year. So I will just add that. I'm really just here to try to help the situation. I totally am in agreement with you that you should have a couple of months maybe to try this and see if going forward the problems go away, and that, with Mr. Nowotnik in charge, that we're in a better place than maybe we were before. I'm willing to make that try, and I'm not going to look at it with anything other than just a chance to try to help. So that's really all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much.
And again, I hope you understand. Just want to work with you, not against you.
No, I appreciate it.
And so anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Joe, I may have 2 comments.
Well, I still haven't responded to the
Okay,
first
yeah.
round of comments. I'd like to do that if I
And
could.
then you come
Yeah.
back across the board, right?
Yeah, I want to actually, I haven't really had an opportunity to respond to a number of the other comments. So anyway, I think that the situation that Ms. Curran described was in place prior to the employees being let go. I think she made that very clear. And what I just ask her and the public, I understand the concern. I want to thank her for her input. My expectation is we'll have a better situation as we move forward, as we implement our solution. So that's the first thing. Second thing is in terms of informing the board. As has been pointed out, we have a convoluted structure. So ultimately, we made I'm the town supervisor in the town of Rye, and we made town of Rye decisions. And we had a convoluted situation where we had full-time town of Rye employees. Mayor French was very clear in talking about the health and benefit costs subjected to the town. And so ultimately, we made a town decision. Just so people are fully aware of the town decision, the town is a highly unusual municipal entity in that 80% of the revenues come from are non-tax. Okay, non-tax. So if we wanted to increase our town budget this year, we're a 2% limit. That means we could increase our expenditures by $6,500 on a $3.5 million budget. That's not a whole lot of money. Now, what was the situation we found ourselves in? From 2007 to 2011, the non-tax revenues, 80% of the revenues of the town, fell from $3.7 million to $2.3 million. That's a 40% drop. A 40% drop. In addition to that, this was exacerbated, as Mayor French pointed out, by a $300,000 increase in health and pension costs. So that's a $1.7 million negative turnaround in a budget of $3.5 million. Now, I don't know how President Obama is going to do it when he has to reduce expenditures by 40%, but at the end of the day, we have a terrifically difficult situation we had to confront. And we had to make difficult and painful decisions. We had to reduce the operating expenses townwide by $450,000. And as we all know, basically municipal government is primarily employees. So at the end of the day, we made the horrifically difficult decision. We didn't want to do that. Nobody wanted to do it. Now, point out, we've been in the town of Rye for 6 years, or close to 6 years, and never laid one employee off, except for one that was for malfeasance. And I will point out that this year we're still going to use $350,000 in our fund balance, so we still haven't sorted out the problem. So I've got to manage the town of Rye first and foremost. Now, do I appreciate there's an impact on the Rye Town Park? Of course I do. As everybody on this board knows, anybody that's ever done any business, laying people off is the most difficult thing you can do. So would I have liked to have given you some notice? Yeah, of course I would have liked to have given you some notice, but those are horrifically difficult emotional decisions. So we had to move quickly, and there's all kinds of legal ramifications. We have our town attorney here. Mr. Noto, if you want to comment on that. So that's what happened. Normally, as you well know, as everybody on this board knows, this is an enormously conciliatory board. All the information is here as soon as we get it. So that's the second one. In terms of what we do going forward, if this board makes a decision that they want to hire a full-time employee year-round, let's do that. Now, we've gotten enormous pressure. Now, we can go to the videotape. Where's Warner Wolf when you need him? Let's go to the videotape. Mr. Sack, we've got to take down expenditures. Mr. French, we've got to take down expenditures. We've got to get this operating budget down. I need to know what it's going to be.
Guilty as charged.
And so ultimately, at the end of the day, if the Rye Town Park Commission decides that Rye Town Park wants to pick up a full-time employee, wants those health care benefits, needs somebody down there 24/7, so anybody goes by can wave to them and say, you know what, there's a whatever over there that we can't see. I'm perfectly happy to entertain that suggestion. So I do appreciate that the decision, that was a very difficult decision, which is a personnel decision. Normally, we'd like to share those decisions with the full of the board, wasn't able to do that. So I just wanted to get that on the table if I could. So I know there were some other comments and questions. People, Bishop, I need another glass of water if I could too.
Mayor, you first and then me. You want to go? Me?
Okay, whomever.
Well, your term is up in 2 months. You first.
Oh, thank you. So you want me to talk quickly? First of all, there are lots of different issues that are being combined together. One has to do with maybe past issues. One has to do with going forward. And one of the things, there were disparaging comments that were made about people who worked at the park previously, and I think that's really unfair to disparage people who had worked for many years. Yeah, maybe they made a mistake, and maybe they didn't make a mistake. I can't tell you how long the lights were out or what they weren't out, but I think it's really unfair to disparage people. Some of those people have worked at the park for 20 years, and I think that's wrong. And assuming there was a mistake made, then lots of us in this room should take responsibility. I'll take responsibility. I've walked in that park that I might not have seen a light. Of course, I may not be there late at night. I live many miles away. So I think that's unfair, and I do consider that disparaging. So, and even if a person did miss it, so be it. I'm not saying so be it that you continue. You learn from that. And I do want to say, I may disagree with you, Supervisor Carvin, about the communication, because you know I'm big on communication. And we do have a wonderful working relationship, and I appreciate our relationship. I am proud of the years and the improvements that have been made. So I want to reiterate it, because my criticism, and I don't want to use the criticism, how we can improve going forward, is the fact that we've really worked very, very hard, and I do think that it's a better park, and I think most of the people in the city of Rye feel that way as well. But one of the things I want to be on the record, because I don't agree, and I've said this to Bishop, and etc. In order to have a good park, you have to have the right ingredients, you have to have the right maintenance, and etc. And this park is always voted on a budget, so that there's no cost, that revenues equal expenditures. I may disagree with that. Let me explain why. A park is an amenity. And when you have a budget, there are certain things that you provide to your residents, and there's a cost associated with it. I'm going to use Crawford Park. The reason I use Crawford and Rye Town Park are those are the two parks that are run by the town of Rye. One's located in the city of Rye, one's located in Rybrook. There's a cost associated with Crawford Park, and no one complains about that. I think it's about $200,000 a year. And so if there was an additional cost associated with, if everyone in this room was in agreement, that could enhance it. I'm not talking about a great amount expenditure, but if it would enhance it, then maybe that's a philosophical approach that we have to discuss. So I just want to be on the record. Yes, so, Councilman Sack felt that way, and Mayor French, but sometimes there may be a cost associated with it. And that's something we have to decide on, a philosophical approach. And it's true with parks, you never know what's going to happen with the revenue because it's determined on weather, really, at least on the on-season. So that is a philosophical approach that I think that has to be discussed going forward. And I am sure the communications, I'm willing to give it a try with this new paradigm or this new chain of command. And, you know, I just hope, I would have liked to, I understand the town of Rye may just, and I understand the numbers, but it would have been nice because there are policy decisions that this board has to make. But I really want to say that the people who were let go worked very hard, and I don't want their names to be disparaged this evening. I think that would be unfair. Here.
Thank you. Other comments from the board?
Just one more comment. The results speak for themselves the last 3 years. It is like night and day when you go back to 2008. And communication is very important. But it's the spirit of the communication in terms of it's got to be collaborative, not accusatory. And whether you sit on our Friends of Rye Town Park or the Rye Town Park Advisory Board or on this commission or on the staff or a Rye resident, it has been extremely collaborative where we reach out to one another and we communicate. And this is a decades-old problem. I kicked off my State of the City speech with the director of play on the front page of the Rye Chronicle in 1929 said, now we all know that 65% of the people that go to Playland are non-residents. 90% of the people that went to Rye Town Park are non-residents. And in 1929 he said, my focus on the people that use the park, whether or not it's contrary to the needs of Rye residents. And the chairman has turned that around and created a collaborative environment where the wishes and the interests of Rye City are paramount to the decision-making of this park. And you have seen it. Now, I'm embarrassed that light bulbs are out, but I'm even more embarrassed that he has to sit here and answer questions about why they're out. He will get on it, Bishop will get on it, it will get done. But part of that is communication across all of the people that want to make this a great park. So I think we move on. I've talked about this enough.
Thank you very much, Mayor French. Other content? Which ones?
No, to the extent I want to say anything, I want to focus on moving forward,
Perfect.
what the solution is, beginning tomorrow, and how we get a daily walkthrough of the park and we get maintenance taken care of going forward. So.
Good. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, Mr. Servey?
I just would like
your
to,
name and address for the record.
Councilor Rod Brook, I just would like to clear up a few things that the park director made a statement about, and Mr. Lawyer. But we'll start with the duck pond. The duck pond has all the algae in it because nobody took care of the aerators. The aerators have underneath them, they have these fins that were hardly ever cleaned. And in previous years, they were cleaned almost every day. So that's one of the problems that the duck pond had. And I like that the people to understand that. It wasn't because of the workers. And the park director said that also, that the trees were never fertilized. Well, that's not true. Because I worked down there for 12 years. We fertilized those trees every year. That's number one. And number two, he said that the walls were never painted. Well, we painted the walls every year. The bathrooms, where Seaside Journeys was, we painted all that. So I'd like to correct that and make it straight for the records. And I also happen to disagree with you, Mr. Supervisor. I'm surprised that you made a statement that you said that the three guys that were laid off were responsible for what happened. I think that you stepped over the line, and I happen to agree with the mayor and I think you owe those guys an apology. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Silvey. So let me clarify what I said. Okay, well, if we can go to the videotape. What I wanted to make absolutely clear is Ms. Curran and some of the comments we've seen in the press, all of those comments and concerns predated letting the staff go. And so ultimately, if she had a complaint that originates in October, that's a complaint that's down to the staff. If it's a complaint that was in November, that's a complaint down to the staff. So I just wanted to make clear. And so if I did come across that I was disparaging our employees in any way, then let me take the advantage to take you up on your offer. And let me apologize to the park employees, because that was not my intention. My intention is we're trying to implement a new policy. And if there were concerns that predated their departure, then that's no reflection on the new policy. So I'm just trying to clarify things. But thank you for bringing that to my attention. I do want to apologize to the former staff if they came across that I was critical of them. Thank you. Yep, please, come on up.
Deirdre Curran, right resident. I got raked over the coals. I'm not trying to disparage anybody that's worked at that park. I didn't want to see those people get fired. I don't know any of them personally. I don't even know their names. I don't know why things weren't being taken care of at the park, and I don't know what the chain of command is that brought it to that point. And I understand Doug French is clearly very frustrated. I think he's very insulted that I've implied that I don't think things are being run all that well. I understand there have been improvements. But I sit here and listen to some of the things you people are saying, and I'm sitting in that chair wondering when you people actually walk through this park on a busy day. I still see people urinating in between their cars while they're sitting on the lawn, running their cars while the exhaust fumes are burning out the grass and the radios are playing, and they're leaving garbage. Instead of walking 6 feet to a garbage can, they're leaving dirty diapers on the ground. I still see cars parked, okay, not to the wall, 50, 75 yards away from the wall, but still over a tremendous portion of that park, right next to the duck pond. I'd love to find somebody that could do a soil test to find out how much of the pollution from all those cars, and you walk over that grass in the summer, there's antifreeze all over the ground, there's oil leaks all over the ground. It's a parking lot. That whole stretch of grass from the beginning of the duck pond to well up the hill is a parking lot in the summer. And it starts early. It starts in April now. You people, I don't even want to get into the whole preseason parking thing you're surprising people with every year. And last year, you were so excited about how much money you made by surprising people. Any sunny day, it was over like 65 degrees. All of a sudden, you pull up to the booth and you guys are charging for parking unannounced. And you, Joe Carvin, at one of the meetings, I believe it was in April, said, I quote, and I looked at it the other night, "That's great. Let's turn these constituents into customers." That's the attitude. I understand you people are up against enormous difficulties trying to make these town budgets work. I get the pension stuff. I get the financial. I wouldn't want your job. I don't want to do what you people do because I can't imagine how you make this work. I really do have a lot of respect for all of you to sit here and try and crunch these numbers. The concern I have about that park is Mayor Feinstein kind of hit on it, and I appreciate what you said. It seems very much that when you're running Rytown Park, you're looking at numbers on paper, and you're not looking at the park as a living, breathing entity and an amenity to the community. It's not supposed to pay for itself. It's going to cost the town some money. And I understand we have to make that amount of money the smallest we possibly can, but it's not a profit. It's amenity in the community, and that park is just churned into making every last dime you can get out of it, and it's hurting the park. The trees are not doing well at that park if you walk around in the summer, especially the trees on the side of the park where we're doing all the car parking. If you look at them, they deteriorate more drastically every year than the trees on the other side of the park. There's a lot of air pollution going on all summer. There's a lot of ground pollution going on over there. I have to imagine it's seeping into the duck pond. Maybe that's part of the problem at the duck pond. I don't want to get into the duck pond issue because I know nothing about it. And there's another thing that Catherine said. She made a good point. It seems to me when you people really focus on the season, when you're collecting money at the parking booth and when you can collect money at the beach, I was down there on Sunday, and I know that you were down there on Sunday because you drove past me in the Playland parking lot while I was walking my dog, and I got a big smile and a wave, and I said, gee, I wonder if he knows who I am. Did he see the video? But you didn't see the video. Sunday was a lousy day. There was fog thick as pea soup. Do you know how many people were down at that park on Sunday? The park was packed. The beach was packed. There were families. There were old people. There were kids playing. There were senior citizens walking hand in hand. It was a horrible, cold, nasty, foggy day, and I counted over 100 people in Rytown Park at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
236 cars.
Did you get $10 from the law, Bishop? I mean, it was busy down there. The only thing I could think anybody would want to do on a day like that. I was the crazy one out walking my dog. You'd think everybody else would have wanted to be home on the couch on a blanket with a cup of soup. People love that park. The fact that we don't have 6 inches of ice on the ground, everybody's out there walking around, getting exercise, enjoying being outside. That's town residents. And we don't go to that park at the height of the season because of the insanity. You know where I go when I want to enjoy a nice, quiet, peaceful park and sit in the grass? I go to Crawford Park. I don't have to pay, and I can enjoy it as a park. I can't do that at Rytown Park in June, July, or August. I can't do it, and I won't even try. The only time I go for walks at Rytown Park in the summer is late in the evening after everybody's left, and that's why I know the lights don't work. Okay? I don't want to disparage anybody. I understand you've all made tremendous efforts. I know there have been improvements, and I know you people are up against phenomenal budgetary issues right now, and I don't want to disparage the people that worked at the park before. I don't know whether or not they did a good job. I don't know what the chain of command is, but I know that when I walk through that park, I don't see things. I hear you all talking about how great everything looks and everything, and all I can think of is I never see any of you down there. When are you people walking around looking at this place? It's not the park that I see when I go. So, and another thing I want to address. I apologize for the comment in the Rye Patch where you and I were both misquoted. This is why I stopped responding to anything in any of the papers. Almost every paper that I spoke to this week misquoted me. So I've learned something. I stopped believing everything they said you said. I stopped believing everything they said he said because I got it. They weren't quoting me right. I'm assuming they're not quoting you right either. I did not call you a liar. I said that if that quote was accurate, it was a lie. And we both found out, the editor corrected herself, that she didn't quote you correctly. She implied something in there and made something sound in the story that was not accurate. So I apologize for any public misconception. What I read, I was like, it made it sound like you and I had a conversation, and we hadn't, and I was horrified when I saw it.
Right.
So for the record, I am not implying that Joe Carbon is a liar. I appreciate the work you people do. But I really, really always get the sense after I leave these meetings or I watch them on TV that the only concern is how things look on paper to make the numbers work. And it's not, the concern is never an environmental concern or the quality of the park. There are great new programs. I can't go to any of the stuff you do because I can't bring my dog.
I think that's a fair comment. I really do think it's a fair comment. I appreciate all your comments. I think that's a fair comment. Now, I think part of the reason it comes across that way is because obviously we're all under tremendous pressure to reduce taxes. We all saw the article in the Journal News on Sunday. And maybe we should talk more about the environmental impact. Now, it's not that we haven't done things to improve. Now, these are all, difficult decisions as you recognize and suggest, and we're trying to balance a number of different interests. Look, as and we'll do a budget this year and sit down and think it through again this year. Maybe we charge nothing for the park. Rye City has an fiduciary responsibility vis-a-vis its citizens, as do we, as do Mayor Pilla and Feinstein. These are all fair-minded comments. And ultimately what we try and do at this board is generate a consensus. I really appreciate it because, I think I never read the blogs.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
And some of the journalists do a better job of quoting than others, I would argue also. But ultimately, look, I think the important point is the one, Mayor French, let's have a constructive outlook. Your best, you want the best for the park, and I would argue everybody here on the board does as well. And so I thank you for your, really bringing it, I do think you for bringing it to our attention, and it was embarrassing, and I want to commit here to we're going to make every effort. And our hope is that in 2 or 3 months' time, you'll come and say, wow, the park's starting to improve. That's my hope. And we got to work hard to try to generate that. And by the way, the other thing is don't ever hesitate, to send an email to myself. I'll give you my personal email, to Mr. Nowotnik. And by the way, I want to clarify, because one thing you're absolutely right on. It's not your job. It's not, and we're not expecting you to so I want to be clear, because there was some, I think, misquotes again. We don't expect you to watch the park for us. And there's no expectation. We're fully staffed. We're reviewing the park more than what was previous with the full-time staff. So we will have people in the park, and I would argue in the summertime, I guarantee you, I'm at the beach at the park more than anybody. But in terms of but if you do see something, and you have a concern, please don't hesitate to directly email me. I'll give you my personal email, Mr. Nowotnik, and those kinds of things. That is your responsibility. We're going to be fully responsible.
I don't want to see the onus being put on the public to make sure you guys know what's going on down there, because that's the impression that I've been getting.
Well, I don't know, and I want to thank you so much. I want to dispel that notion. You have zero onus, zero whatsoever. Look, you got the cameraman, Tom. We know we're under intense scrutiny. We know we have changed the way business is being done. We know if we screw up, there's going to be a hell of a furor in the community. So we are fully cognizant of the fact that we need to deliver better. I think that we had a situation between a 1 to 300 year hurricane, a change in staff, and those kinds of things that led to it. But don't take my word for it. Judge me on our actions. Come back in 2 months, 3 months' times, and see where we get to.
We'll see how we do in the spring.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Now, I think we're all really excited to hear exactly what the plan is going forward.
Okay. Terrific. In fact, that's a good segue. Please. Yep. We're going to have to, I don't think we get through the full agenda, and I did want to give the public an opportunity to speak tonight. We've got another half an hour, and so hopefully we'll one or two more comments from the public. I think if the board's happy with it, I'd go through the plan that we have envisioned to discuss that. If the board wants to suggest something, I'm more than happy to open to that. And I'll leave the budget numbers with you. This is preliminary budget numbers. I think we study them, send us questions. If everybody's on board for that, we'll do it that way. Please.
William Dean Grandy, 26 Park Place, Portchester, New York. I had two questions. Have you finally finished putting the cameras in the park?
Crawford Park?
Yes.
My understanding, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And I was told last year that we had to get a new card for this year.
For Rytown Park?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, we haven't
Only if if you had a card from 2009 or before, you are grandfathered in. Anybody who registered first from 2010 going forward has to renew every year.
Well, personally, my card is split. I'd like to know if I need a new one.
Well, you can contact us, and we can
William,
look you up.
if you will, Mr. Murado, could you sit down with William, and we'll work with you and figure it out.
We'll look you up.
Okay. How are those cameras working out? Are they covering what you expected or not?
I think they're doing exactly what we hoped they would do.
Yes?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, William. Other questions, comments from the public? All right. Well, again, thank you so much for the comments. Thank you for the constructive, well-intentioned. Oh, sorry. Is there one other comment? Oh, please. Sorry.
Hello. My name is Dina Gorin. Hi.
Hi, how are you? Nice
Good,
to
how are
meet you.
you?
Yes.
I'm from Portchester.
Cool.
And I really just very, very simply and quickly wanted to thank Deirdre for bringing this to our attention, because this conversation would never be happening, and it's such an important conversation, and I hope that other, community members bring issues to your, table and to other government meetings. So I just want to thank you, Deirdre.
And actually, let me second that. At the end of the day, the public makes us better. We never would have changed the parks policy if it hadn't been for the courageous Caroline Walker and Christina Bircher, and they made the park better. And when after this meeting ends, we'll go to the Rytown meeting. I think there'll be maybe one person here. So, yes, the constituents involved make our park better. Deirdre, thank you so much, and thank you for making that comment, because it's absolutely correct. Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Nowotnik, you're on, then tell them how we're going to save the park. It's all down to Bishop. If there's a problem, it's Bishop's problem, it's not me.
In the words of Rodney King, why can't we all just get along?
Hey, Rodney.
Well, the first thing I wanted to clarify for everybody, because I think there is a misconception, all right, there is only one full-time person ever assigned to Rye Town Park. All right?
From Rye Town.
From the town of Rye, that's correct. Okay? That was our park foreman, and he split his time between Rye Town Park and other town of Rye business. The other two gentlemen, the other two parks employees, were primarily functioning at other town facilities, be it Crawford Park, be it 10 Pearl Street, etc. So, people are talking about that we lost 3 staffers. That the impact on Rye Town Park was relatively minimal. Also, now Rye Town Park has to be recognized as having 2 seasons. And since we're in the off-season, we'll start with what we're doing in the off-season. Okay, our staff at the time, we would send them down to Rye Town Park, and they would do trash pickup 2 days a week, maybe 3 days a week. They'd walk around, they'd check the doorknobs, they'd look around, make sure there was no graffiti, make sure there were no dangerous type issues. They'd pick up any tree branches that fell that were considered dangerous, and more or less report any issues back to the park foreman. That's how it was handled. What we've done is we've contracted with Greenway Property Services. Now, understand, we started with Greenway a year and a half ago. We brought them in primarily to do landscaping. They replaced a lot of our seasonal help. They didn't replace any full-time employees, but they replaced seasonal help. We've had enough experience with them to know that they do a quality job. And I think people were happy with how the landscaping has been going at Rye Town Park for the last 2 years, I think. So, we now have Greenway staffers that are going to Rye Town Park twice a week, emptying the trash barrels that are throughout the park. They're picking up any loose trash that might be around the park. They are not going on the beach. All right, we are leaving the beach as passive during the wintertime.
Which is past practice, correct?
Right, which is basically what we've been doing for the last few years. In addition, for example, they would provide us with the handyman services. For example, they were the ones that reset the 2 signs that were blown down. So they went in there, they concreted the signs in and fixed that. That's the kind of thing that we're doing. When we found out about the lights, we picked up the phone, called our electrician, got him down there right away, do an inventory of what's wrong, what's missing, what's broken, and get it fixed. All right, that's what we intend to keep doing in the off-season. I go down there at least 5 days a week. At least 5 days a week. We have now also gotten Bill Lawyer to, because he's a local resident, he's in the park almost every day, to walk around as well in the off-season. Again, I'm talking off-season now, folks. So as a result, what we're doing is we're seeing stuff now, and we're trying to pick up on it. Again, off-season. So we think that can work very, very well.
So I just want to add one thing, Bishop. One of the things, and again, it was a very legitimate and right-on question, how does as good as Mr. Nowotnik is, he's not a miracle worker, how does he handle all these different jobs? What we did is a number of Mr. Nowotnik's previous functions here in the town of Rye, purchasing, those kinds of things, budgeting, was given to another town employee. So ultimately, so that's part. So basically, he's refocused, if you will, on facilities management, and again, clearly responsible for both facilities management at Crawford Park and Rye Town Park. We did actually put out for bid to see if the facilities management, the contract was $112,500. Mr. Nowotnik has a background in facilities management. He knows the facilities very well. So ultimately, rather than bringing a third-party contractor for that, we decided to go with Mr. Nowotnik and replace some of free him up to do that by taking on some of his responsibility. Mr. Nowotnik?
All right. And also, we've been outsourcing at Wright Town for quite some time. We've got outsourced electricians, we've got outsourced pest control, outsourced plumbers. A lot of our work has been done by outside contractors, and we found that to be an extremely effective tool. So our plan, again, going forward, is that we will monitor the park almost daily. Daily, if we can arrange the schedules appropriately. We intend...
Which is more than, obviously, if you have a half-time employee with 5
Sure.
days a week. Right.
And we will take care of quite a few issues, and I think, at least I'm confident that people will be happy. Now, during the regular season, it has to be understood how we work. During the regular season, we hire 76 employees last year. All right, that covers our cashiers, our parking people, our maintenance staff, our security people.